It's been nearly 3 years since I've last done a Call of Duty Zombies tier list, so I think this video is long overdue. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys my updated Call of Duty Zombies tier list. And I want to throw out a couple disclaimers before I get right into this. I'm going to keep this intro very short, but a couple disclaimers real quick. The first thing, this is going to be completely Treyarch only, so that's not including Exo Zombies, Infinite Warfare Zombies, World War II Zombies, anything that's not Treyarch, I'm not going to include it. Also, I want to say this real quick, that this list is going to be completely subjective. I don't believe in an objective ranking at all. I believe that no matter what, your opinion will always have a say in the matter. You'll have some kind of nostalgia factor for something, or your opinion will get in the way of your ranking, whether it's objective, subjective, but specifically for an objective ranking, I totally believe that your opinion will kind of alter your ranking. So I think that this is going to be completely subjective. I'm not doing that objectivity stuff, so this is going to be completely based off of my opinion, which is the best way to go. But I'm not going to spend too much time talking with you guys. The first thing I want to say is please be sure to leave a like on the video if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to stay notified for future videos and streams I do on the channel. And here is the tier list. So I've got the list ready right here. Here are the rankings right here. This is ranging from Nocturne Totem to Forsaken, and the reason why I'm not including Vanguard Zombies or Modern Warfare 3 Zombies is because I have not played any of those modes. So there's really not a point in me including that on here. So this is ranging from World at War to Cold War. So here are the rankings right here. We have Best of the Best, which is obviously your S tier, Amazing, Good, Quality, Mid, and Nope, obviously being F tier. So here are the maps right here, again, like I said, ranging from Nocturne Totem to Forsaken, and let's just go ahead and get right into this. So starting off with Nocturne Totem, the first Zombies map ever, and this is a weird one because honestly, my ranking of this map is honestly persuaded by comparisons, and what I mean by that is really all I can do with this map now is, obviously it's the first Zombies map ever, so this is a really stripped down to its basic Zombies map. All you're given is a mystery box, a couple of wall weapons, and a very small location, very, small space to survive, and that's all it is. It's a survival map, and obviously that's how Zombies started. It's the first Zombies map ever, so it's hard to really talk about this when, we've gotten what we've got in Zombies. It's really just a comparison thing, because Nocturne Totem right now, it doesn't have a lot compared to what we have now. But you still have to respect the fact that this is, kind of the building formula for Zombies. It's the first Zombies map ever. Honestly, if you talked to me a few years ago, I probably would have put it in mid, just because, Nocturne Totem's not a map I revisit a lot. Obviously, I'm not a high round or survival player. I'm more of an Easter egg player. Nocturne Totem just doesn't have anything for me. But you do have to respect the fact that it is the original. So I'm going to put Nocturne Totem in quality. It's honestly very close to mid, but I'm going to respect the fact that it is the first Zombies map and put it in quality. I think that's a reasonable spot for it. Coming up next, we have Verrucht, which is the second Zombies map. This is all in chronological order, by the way. But this is basically kind of the older brother to Nocturne Totem. I'll be honest, on my ranking, I kind of have them like right next to each other, I think. But I'm going to put Verrucht just a bit higher because Verrucht obviously did update some more things. It added perks, it added some traps. The location is just a tad bit bigger, but it's definitely still very difficult to survive. Obviously, there's no big space. Every single location or spot on the map is really tight. It's a really difficult map. It's not player friendly at all. And this map is terrifying. Like, you want to talk about a map with a good aesthetic and, a good vibe, specifically a good horror vibe. Verrucht, for sure. I mean, this is a scary map, especially back in the day. Yeah, this was a scary map. So, honestly, I think Verrucht is basically Nocturne Totem, just with a few kinks, a few updates. But again, I always describe Verrucht as Nocturne Totem's older brother, which it basically is. So, Verrucht, I'm also going to put in the quality tier just a bit above Nocturne Totem. Next up, we have Shinonuma, which in my opinion is definitely a much bigger upgrade from Verrucht. So Shinonuma obviously is the first map that takes place outdoors. The location is much bigger. The layout is really clean in my opinion. You've got like a central hub, and then you've got like 4 separate corners, basically 4 separate areas. I think a lot of maps nowadays have really taken inspiration from that. They kind of use that as the basic layout for a map. But Shinonuma was kind of the first to do that, and it was really good. It's also a really fun high round experience. Obviously, you have the Flogger. It's the first map to introduce Hellhounds. I think this is the first map to introduce a Wonder Weapon that's not the Ray Gun. The Wonderwolf made its appearance on this map. Yeah, Shinonuma is definitely a much better upgrade to these two maps right here. So I'm going to put this one in the good category. I think that Shinonuma is a good map. Again, like I said, a very fun high round experience. That's all it is, by the way. But Shinonuma definitely adds enough stuff to put it a tier higher than Nacht and Verrückt, which, again, like I said, Nacht and Verrückt are kind of the same in my opinion, but Shinonuma it's kind of in a different category right there. So Shinonuma in the good category. Let's move on. And then for the final World War map, we have Der Riese, which is, again, another tier above Shinonuma. I'm putting Der Riese in the amazing tier. When I think of Der Riese, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. When you're looking at this from an objective point of view, and I know I said I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to do it just for a little bit here. Der Riese, there's really not... I really can't think of a flaw with Der Riese. I think overall it's a very well-rounded map. So if you were ranking this objectively, I definitely think that Der Riese, you could probably make the argument that it's up here, but I'm not going to do that. I think that Der Riese, while it is a well-rounded map, I think that it just doesn't offer enough. Again, it's another comparison thing. Der Riese just doesn't offer enough to really, for me, classify it in the best of the best. But it is an amazing map. Like I said, well-rounded experience. It's fun. Basically brings in all of the best elements of World at War, and also introduces Pack-a-Punch for the first time. So, again, really big upgrade. You kind of notice that like each of these maps like progressively get better, get an update, good updates at that. Like it's just really good. It gets better as it goes along. And Der Riese is definitely the best World at War map. It, again, like I said, brings in all of the best elements and just basically puts it all in one experience. It's an amazing map, and you would be wrong to disagree on that. And that's my final word right there. So now we get to move on to the Black Ops 1 maps. Starting us off with Black Ops 1 is Kino der Toten. And this map has changed for me significantly. I used to like put this at the top of the amazing. Top of amazing. Kino der Toten used to be right there. I used to really dig this map. I used to really like it. I thought it was a very fun high round experience. But the more time has gone on, the more it started to kind of go down on the list. But even with that, it's still a good map. Kino der Toten is definitely not one of the best zombies maps of all time. Let me go ahead and make that clear to a lot of you guys, because there was a time when people would say Kino was the best map of all time. But it's really not close, in my opinion. Kino der Toten is the most bare bones experience, the most generic zombies experience of all time. One of the main things that brings this map down for me are the Nova Crawlers. Obviously, they make their introduction on this map, and I do not like the Nova Crawlers at all, but they're not awful on this map, but they're still not great. They're not great on any map, in my opinion, but, yeah, Kino der Toten is the first appearance at that. It's also the first appearance of the Thunder Gun, which is my personal favorite wonder weapon of all time, so that's a positive for sure. The location is cool. I like the fact that there's a small part on the map where you can actually go outside. I'm happy that the entire map doesn't take place inside. Not that that's a problem, but I do like the fact that there is an exterior to the map. I like to hang out there a lot anyway. But overall, Kino der Toten, it's just a bit too generic for my liking. It's sometimes a bit boring, but overall it still is a pretty fun high round experience. But there are a couple things that bring it down. Like I said, it can get a bit boring from time to time. I usually don't spend more than 50 rounds on this map because I kind of get bored pretty easily. And the Nova Crawlers are definitely a downer for me. So Kino der Toten is going to be, I think I'm going to put it above Shinonuma. But it's in the good category. It would be an amazing if you talked to me a few years ago, but it's definitely not there anymore. Coming up next, we have 5. Now, this is definitely an interesting one for me because 5 is not a map I play a lot, But there are definitely a decent amount of things that I respect about this map. First of all, I love the characters, I love the location, I love the vibe of the map. It's a really difficult map. It's not player friendly really at all. Kind of similar to Verruct in that way. The Nova Crawlers exist, but I mean, I don't really care about them. The Pentagon Thief is kind of iffy for me. Like, for one, I think he's a very unique, special enemy. I think that's really cool that, you know, they did something that different. But still, he's just not one of my favorites at all. I can respect it, but he's not one of my favorites at all. So I'm kind of iffy on that. And obviously, the Winter's Howl is not a great wonder weapon at all. So that's definitely not a good thing. But there's definitely things that I respect about this map for sure. I think that if you talked to me a few years ago, I'd probably put it in mid. I think you talk to me now, I'm probably going to put it just above mid, and I'm going to put it in quality. I think it's definitely a map that deserves some appreciation. It's definitely not a map that I would want to replay over and over again. It's just kind of an average map to me. It kind of exists, but there are definitely a lot of things I respect about the map. I love the fact that you can play as JFK, and that crew right there is just it's so crazy, and I love it so much. Having a location in the Pentagon, I think, is really cool. Obviously, it's stripped from the campaign, but I don't really care. I think that having zombies in the Pentagon is pretty crazy. So yeah, I think 5 definitely deserves some appreciation, but still, it's not that fantastic of a map. Moving on to Ascension. Now, this one, I have a lot of appreciation for this map. I really like this map a lot. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it here in Amazing. I think that's similar to Derice. It's another well-rounded experience. I think that the high round is a lot of fun. The vibe that you get from this map is really cool. I love the space stuff. I think that's awesome. Also, there's really only one flaw to this map, and it's the special rounds, the Space Monkeys. Those are easily, and I think that the general consensus of the community can agree with me on that. The Space Monkeys are definitely the worst part of Ascension, and in my opinion, but I think the majority of us can agree on that. But there's still a lot to love about this map, like the location, again, the vibe, all of the gadgets that you get. Obviously, this is the introduction of Gersh devices. I think this is the first appearance of Matryoshka dolls. But overall, just the feeling that you get from this map, all of the Soviet stuff, the space race stuff, like it's all just really cool. I love playing Ascension. It's a fun high round experience. Also, the first mainstream Easter egg ever, mainline Easter egg, however you want to say it. The first Easter egg ever. And it is, it's not a great Easter egg, but still, it's the first one, so you have to give it points for that. But yeah, overall, Ascension, I think it's an amazing map. It really hasn't gone down on my list that much from a few years ago. I still really like this map. I think Derice is just a bit above Ascension. I'm willing to accept the fact that this is 100% of a more well-rounded experience than Ascension. Because Ascension just has that one flaw. It has that one flaw to it. But I still love playing this map, and I never get tired of it. Call of the Dead. Okay, so here's the thing about Call of the Dead. I've never played this map before, so what I'm gonna actually do is I'm going to leave it alone. I don't feel like I should rank this map just because of the fact that I haven't played it before. Because I just, like, what's the point in ranking something if you've never played it before? Obviously, seeing it is much different from playing it, so I'm just going to leave it alone for now. I think based off of what I've seen, I'd probably put Call of the Dead, probably in the lower end of good, the back half of good. But I'm going to leave it alone for now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put it all the way back here just so I can get through these much easier. But Call of the Dead I've never played before. I kind of wish I added a tier that said never played before, but you know what? That's okay. I'm just going to leave it right there. Call of the Dead, unfortunately, I've never played before. I've never been able to get it, so yeah, I'm just going to leave it alone for now. Now, I apologize to all of you Call of the Dead fans out there. Up next is Shangri-La, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Shangri-La is a bit overrated in my opinion. Look, I respect the fact that it's a difficult map. I think that the visuals of this map are cool. I think the location is cool, sure. But there's a lot that I also don't like about this map. I think Shangri-La is a mid-map. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Shangri-La is a mid-map to me. This is not a map I have fun with, really, at all. But again, there are a few things that I can respect about the map. But first of all, the special enemies, I am not a fan of at all. I don't like the napalm zombie. I don't like the shrieker. I don't like all of the monkeys that show up and take up your power-ups. And sure, you can use that to your advantage, but it also sucks. So, yeah, the special enemies on this map are not fun at all. The process to get Pack-a-Punch, in my opinion, is not fun either. I don't like the fact that you kind of have a time limit. I'm gonna be completely honest, that one aspect of Shangri-La, I'm actually not sure how many people feel about that. I'm not sure if people like that or if people don't like that. I personally don't like that. I don't like the Pack-a-Punch on Shangri-La. It's not that fun. The high round experience, you know, I did a high round on Shangri-La. It was okay, obviously. I ran the best strat possible, and it's just okay. Obviously, I know Shangri-La is a very difficult map, but it's just not, it's not a replayable map at all for me. The Wonder Weapon is cool. I really like the Wonder Weapon. Obviously, I think a lot of us do. It's very fun to use. But that is a positive that I'll give it, that and the visuals and location and whatnot. The Indiana Jones feel that you get is pretty cool. The Easter egg is pretty solid. Like, it's a pretty solid Easter egg. Again, it's 4-player. I never like Easter eggs that are only 4-player, not solo. So Shangri-La is kind of a downer for me. But there are definitely some cool steps on this map. So I'll give it that. But overall, Shangri-La, it's not that replayable for me. And it just kind of exists, in my opinion. So Shangri-La, a mid-map for me. Sorry to all you Shang lovers, but it's a mediocre map to me. So moving on. And coming up next is Moon. So Moon is a map that definitely has its flaws, but honestly, I think that the positives of this map really overshadow the negatives, in my opinion. Like, the good stuff on this map is really good. I think I'm gonna put this I'll put it in the middle right here. I'm going to put it in between Shinonuma and Kino. I'll go ahead and talk about the negatives first. The anti-gravity, okay. The anti-gravity is iffy for me because I think that it can definitely mess you up. It can definitely mess the gameplay up, kind of the rhythm of everything. But overall, I've never had that big of an issue with anti-gravity as a lot of other people have. So it's really not that big of a negative to me, but it is something I'm kind of iffy about. I don't like the astronauts or the cosmonauts, whatever you want to call them. I definitely don't like them. They're not a good special enemy at all. The excavators are terrible. I really hate that. I also hate the point in the Easter egg where you have to wait for Tunnel 6 to get breached. The RNG of that sucks. Speaking of RNG, having to get the wave gun, the Gersh device, the QEDs, you know, all that stuff, the RNG definitely sucks. But that's really the worst part, honestly, of Moon. And then you get into the positives. You have, first of all, the map is on the moon. What? Like, it's a crazy, ambitious idea, and it kind of works. Zombies on the moon is crazy. The Easter egg, besides the first half where you have to spend all that time getting everything, is actually really solid. Like, the entire back half of the Easter egg, when you're filling up the soul canisters in the pyramid, that entire section is incredible. Samantha coming out of the pyramid and then doing the final Samantha Says to launch the rockets and blow up the earth. I mean, iconic moment in Call of Duty Zombies. I mean, when you think of the most iconic moments in Call of Duty Zombies, how is blowing up the earth not in, like, the top 5? How is it not even in top 3, honestly? Like, Moon, like I said, the positives of Moon are really positive, and I think, in my opinion, they definitely overshadow the flaws. So in my opinion, Moon is a good map. Like, it's not the most replayable map for me. It's not the most fun high round experience at all. The Easter egg, it has its problems, especially in the first half with all the RNG and some of the steps and things like that, but the back half is really solid, and I think that Moon, 100% such an iconic map, and I think is such a banger way to end Black Ops 1. So now we get to move on to the Black Ops 2 maps. And starting us off for Black Ops 2, we have Transit. And guys, I cannot tell you how much I love this map. I'm just kidding. Transit is definitely not a good map. It's not a good map at all. And listen here. So Transit is interesting to me. Is it my least favorite map of all time? No, it's not. Let's go ahead and get all this out. What are all the negatives? Okay, the location is fine, but what's the bad part about it? The fog, the fire, the denizens that are in the fog, the bus being super inconsistent and kind of a death trap basically. Some of the locations aren't that fantastic. And I said the location is good, and by location I mean the entire map. The entire map is cool. The specific sections on the map aren't that great, like bus depot. Farm is okay. The power station, no, I'm never going to spend time there again. Town and the diner is usually where you're going to be spending most of your time at. But again, the bus, super inconsistent and kind of a death trap. The pack-a-punch process is terrible, especially on solo. Now, when you're playing on co-op, it's okay. But when you're playing on solo, you have to place the turbine at the power station and basically just hope that it didn't break on the way to town. Because if it did, you have to go get a new turbine, go all the way back to the power station, do it again, and hope that it doesn't break. But if, it didn't break, if you're lucky enough that it didn't break, then the vault door will open and you can build the pack-a-punch and you'll be good. But still, it's luck-based. It's a terrible process. Now, again, on co-op, it's okay because you can have someone stay and defend the turbine while the other person goes to town and opens it up. So it's simple at that, but on solo, it's a nightmare. The Avogadro is not a good special enemy. He kind of reminds me of George Romero on Call of the Dead, except way, way worse. Basically, he's a long-term enemy that you can't really deal with. You can only deal with him in kind of small moments, basically, where, you buy Galvan Knuckles, which costs 6,000 points, and then you just melee him, and then eventually he'll go away just for a little bit, and then he'll eventually come back. So he's kind of like George Romero in that way, except way, way worse. He is not a good special enemy at all. And then you have the wonder weapon, the jet gun. So the jet gun, first of all, getting it sucks. Getting all the parts are terrible because you have to go in the fog to get every single one of them. And then once you build it, you use it, and then after just, a little while of using it, I don't actually know the time limit of it, but not a long time at all, it just breaks. It just breaks, and all the parts scatter around, and you have to go back and get it again. What's the point? What was the idea behind that? I'm so curious. So, that's really all I have to say about Transit, honestly. But how can a map that really doesn't have any positives not be my least favorite map? Well, I'll say this. Transit, I actually can have a fun time on this map, especially on co-op. Solo is a nightmare, but playing with other people is definitely much more fun. I don't know if I necessarily say it's in that so bad it's good category. I've heard a couple people say that, but I don't necessarily know if that's true. It's just kind of fun mayhem on co-op. It's just it just works a bit better as a co-op experience rather than a solo experience. A lot of the problems that I have with Transit kind of are birthed from a solo match, but it can't be exploited in co-op. So I definitely have much more fun on co-op. There is one map, though, that I don't have fun with solo or co-op, and we'll get to that when we get there. But Transit is not my least favorite map because of that one detail, even though it's got a glaring amount of flaws. But yeah, Transit, even with that, it's still not a good map at all. It's nope. It's in the nope category, for sure. Next up, we have Nuketown Zombies. This is a mid-map. I'm just going to go ahead and just make that straightforward. It's a mid-map. There's really not much I want to talk about with this map. And that kind of describes the map, right? Nuketown, it doesn't offer a lot. It's a familiar sight. Sure, I think the visuals are cool. I love that nuclear explosion. I think that's really awesome. But, it's a map we've seen before in multiplayer. It's nothing that original. I usually don't have a problem with randomized perks. However, I do have a problem with it here on Nuketown, because not only is the order of perks randomized, but kind of the how late they show up in the game is also a problem, in my opinion, because you could get really lucky and you could have the best perks and the best stuff show up early on. You could have Pack-a-Punch, Jug, Quick Revive. You could have all that stuff show up early on. But then You could also have a game where you could get extremely unlucky and you could have like the worst perks show up, like Mule Kick and Stamina up early on, and then you get Jug in like round 20. And it's those things that kind of make me upset, because it really, when you have randomized perks that kind of define the game, it's not good in my opinion. When you have randomized perks that are kind of in the same spots, but they're just different every game, like, that's fine. And I can give you multiple examples of that. Shino Numa being one, it's totally okay on that map. But on Nuketown Zombies, I don't like it at all. And besides that, Nuketown Zombies, it's just kind of a mediocre experience, there's not much to it at all, and I'll be honest, that's really all I have to say about it. So Nuketown Zombies is it's a mid-map. And coming up next, we have Die Rise. I mentioned this when I talked about Transit, that I have a map that I like a little less than Transit. And it's Die Rise. Die Rise is my personal least favorite Zombies map of all time. So, let me go and get this out of the way. I do have a couple of minor positives about the map. First of all, the Wonder Weapon. The Sliquifier is pretty solid. It's a pretty decent Wonder Weapon. I think that there are a couple of spots on the map where it does look visually pretty cool, like I think especially in the exterior, like on the roof, getting to see the skybox and all the meteors falling down and the other skyscrapers around. I definitely think that's cool. That's about all I have for it though, where basically everything else I don't like. The fact that I have to worry about falling off the map more than I have to worry about the zombies is definitely a problem in my opinion. The amount of times I've fallen off the map more than I've died by the zombies is actually pretty shocking. It's pretty shocking, and a lot of people find that to be a lame excuse, complaining about the fall damage, but it's a serious issue. And you know what it could be solved by? PhD. Literally the one map that, needs PhD, it doesn't have it. And it's just, it's mind-boggling to me. A lot of the locations on the map are just not pleasing whatsoever. It's really dirty, and just, it's not fun, it's not cool, it's not unique. There are so many unnecessary rooms on this map that just make the map feel like a labyrinth. It's totally ridiculous. There's no need for it at all. And I get it, it's a skyscraper, it's an apartment, I totally get that. But it's totally unnecessary. You could have blocked off so many rooms and it would have been just fine. I have a hard time finding my way around this map just because there are so many rooms that look the same. It makes absolutely no sense why there are so many. The elevators are not good either. Not only do they suck as transportation, getting up and down the place, but it also sucks because all of your perks and the Pack-a-Punch are inside the elevators, and it's randomized. I don't necessarily have a problem with randomized perks. Like I said, I don't really have a problem with that on this map, but I have a problem with the fact that they're in the elevators, and I have to go for a hunt around the elevators. Not only do I have to try and figure out what perk is in which elevator, but I also have to wait for the elevator to reach my specific floor, because if I tried to go to the floor that the elevator's on right now, by the time I get there, it's going to end up moving, and it's a cat and mouse chase, basically, at that point. And then you have the jumping jacks, which are basically Nova Crawlers that hop around. I already don't like the Nova Crawlers enough, but you gotta make them hop around. Sure, the reward for it is nice if you get 100% accuracy, you get a max ammo and a free perk. That is nice, but, these should not exist. They're just so frustrating. So frustrating. And that's just the best word to describe them. They're frustrating. And, why do they exist? Why do they exist? But yeah, Die Rise, I don't recall a time where I've had fun on this map. There may have been a couple of laughs that have been shared on this map, but Die Rise is just not a fun experience for me at all. I like it less than Transit. Even though Transit probably has more flaws than it, Die Rise is just not fun for me. And again, that's why I say this list is completely subjective. Because if I were ranking this objective, Die Rise might actually be in the mid category. But I'm not doing that. Because Die Rise, in my opinion, is my least favorite map of all time. So, sorry Die Rise, also not sorry. But then, completely doing a 180, we have Mob of the Dead, which is going to go into the best of the best. Mob of the Dead, the best way to describe this map is it is completely redefined storytelling and the entire progression of Call of Duty Zombies. It totally has. Like, a lot of the formula of storytelling and progressing through a map have been taken from Mob of the Dead. Because Mob of the Dead was the first, it's really the first map that I can recall that has so many things that you need to pick up. Obviously, okay, you got to get the Warden's Key, the shield, the Acid Gat Kit, all the plane parts, and it all flows so well. It's the first time on a map where you really have to get that much amount of stuff, and it just really works. It works so well. So a lot of maps nowadays take the formula that Mob of the Dead started and implement it onto, the future maps. So Mob of the Dead has completely revolutionized, in my opinion, the progression of Call of Duty Zombies, as well as the storytelling. I mean, when you talk about the story of this map, oh my goodness, it is so good. It's so good. There are so many things to love about this map. The location, the unique set of characters, the celebrity cast, the Warden as a boss enemy is solid. The Wonder Weapon is solid, and the upgraded Wonder Weapon, the Acid Gad, the Vitrolic Withering, whatever you want to call it, is also really good. Getting the plane, oh my god, like getting the plane, going to Pack-a-Punch, like going on it and flying to the Golden Gate Bridge, like still remains such an iconic moment in Call of Duty Zombies. It's so good. The Pack-a-Punch process is so good. The only part that sucks is having to get the fuel canisters again after you go back, so you can go back to Pack-a-Punch. That's why I always like to set up so much and get so many points before I have to go again, or before I have to go to Pack-a-Punch, because I just want to get everything done on the first round so I don't have to go back to it again. But unfortunately, if you're doing the Easter egg, you have to go back to it 2 more times. Which, speaking of which, that's actually the one thing that I'm going to give Mob of the Dead some heat about. The story of this map is so good, but the Easter egg to match that is kind of lackluster, in my opinion. Like, so the Easter egg is, you set up, obviously, you get Pack-a-Punch, you get the Vitrolic Withering, the spoon, all that stuff, and then you have to go back to Pack-a-Punch a couple more times. And then after that, you have to go to where you input the codes and input 4 different codes in Afterlife, and then you go back to your human self, and then you have to follow a trail of radio power-ups and listen to basically just a bunch of lore. And it leads you to the best part of the Easter egg, which is the final plane takeoff. Everyone goes in Afterlife, go on the plane, and then you have a standoff at the bridge. That's definitely the best part of the Easter egg. But it's just kind of lackluster for the story that's being told. And that's definitely one thing I'll give Mob of the Dead some heat about. But again, like, the positives, I can't speak today. The positives of this map completely overshadow that one small aspect of things. Like, Mob of the Dead is such an S tier map, and honestly, something's wrong with you if you disagree. Something's definitely wrong with you if you disagree. But Mob of the Dead, 100% an S tier map. So, moving on. Next up, we have Buried. This is an amazing map. And yes, I'm going to put it above Doris and Ascension. You want to talk about a map, like, every single one of us has that map that really made us get into Call of Duty Zombies. Buried was that map for me. And when I say got into Call of Duty Zombies, I mean, like, for the first time, got into Call of Duty Zombies. Like, it's just such a fun map to go in and kill zombies. The witches used to terrify me so much. But so many things about Buried is awesome. Like, the location, the fact that it takes place in, like, this old-fashioned Wild West town is so unique and so awesome. It's such a great idea. The Wonder Weapons, the first introduction of the Ray Gun Mark II, which in my opinion is the best version of the Ray Gun. I'm sorry, you GK lovers. I like it more than the Mark III. This is the best version of the Ray Gun in my opinion. And then you have the Paralyzer, which is not the best Wonder Weapon ever, but it's so much fun to use. And the fact that it has infinite ammo is awesome. The fact that you can fly around with it is awesome. The bank system, sure, it makes it so much easier, but honestly, you guys, like, I don't really care that much. Like, Buried is such a fun experience. The Witch's House is awesome. You know, they easily could have made it to where the witches show up every 5 rounds as a special round, but I love the fact that they put them in one specific location, and that's it. Like, I think that's the best idea ever, honestly, for this map. And then the entire location after the witch's house and the maze and the spiral staircase that leads down to Pack-a-Punch is so awesome, and the music on this map is excellent. That's something I forgot to mention with Mob of the Dead as well. The music is so good. This is going to be where I'm going to start talking about the soundtrack for all the maps, because this is where the soundtrack really starts to help aid the zombies map, like, extraordinarily. So Buried is definitely a map where its soundtrack really helps elevate the experience. You also have Leroy, by the way, who's basically this NPC character that will help you around, which is so cool. Yeah, Buried it's such a fun experience, and it's super nostalgic for me. Again, like I said, it's the map that really made me get into Call of Duty Zombies, so it's got a special place for me in terms of that. But yeah, Buried is 100% an amazing map, and honestly, it's like right outside of top 5 for me. So Buried in the amazing category. And coming up next is Origins. This one's also going into S tier. If you've been around on my channel long enough, you know that Origins is my personal favorite zombies map of all time. It's so crazy to me that the same game has my favorite zombies map of all time and my least favorite zombies map of all time. But that's just the Black Ops 2 zombies experience, is it not? So Origins, I mean, what didn't this map do, to be quite honest? I think the first thing that I want to talk about is really the thing that defined Origins for me. And it's the scale of the map, the magnitude, the gravity of it, the scope, whatever you want to say. Origins is such a big map, not just in terms of layout and the size of the map, but also, like, so many things about this map make it such an in-depth, and, like, the gravity of the map is so big. Whether it's, like, the giant World at War I aerial battle happening above your head, or like the giant skybox above that, or the giant robot stepping across the land, like whatever it may be, Origins just feels so big. It feels so big. This is the introduction of the Panzer Soldat, which is obviously one of the best special enemies we've gotten in Call of Duty Zombies ever. A lot of people argue and say objectively he is the best zombies enemy, which I'm not gonna disagree with you there. But like, Origins just does so many things right. It's also the first introduction of the 4 elemental wonder weapon formulas. Obviously, you got the 4 elemental staffs on this map. The process to get them is really fun. I think one thing that a lot of people don't talk about on this map that I think needs to be noted is the progression of this map. It is so hard to set up on this map. And I love when maps do this. Like, I love when the setup is so difficult and the payoff for it is so worth it. I love that the process, especially on Black Ops 2 Origins. Now, on Black Ops 3 Origins, it's obviously much easier because you've got gobblegums and a bunch of stuff to aid you. But on Black Ops 2 Origins, the setup process was so difficult. It took you so long to try to get a staff before the Panzer Soldat will show up. But getting all 4 staffs, like, the feeling of getting them is so good. Like, seriously, so good. It's so rewarding. All of that work paid off. There's so many things you can do on this map, not just getting the staffs, but you've got G-Strikes, you can get that, the MGOA, the Dempsey gun, whatever you want to call it, and Pack-a-Punch it. It's such an awesome wonder weapon. It's not a wonder weapon, it's a regular gun. I'm mixing up my words today. It's such an awesome weapon. You can get the Max's drone, and like, there's just so many things to love about this map. Like, the music on this map, again, like I said, I'm gonna compliment the soundtrack so much. Origins might honestly have the best soundtrack of any zombies map. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. It might be really close with a couple of others, but in my opinion, I think Origins has the best. Like, you want to talk about another map that's just really defined by its soundtrack, Origins, 100%. 100% for sure. So, I mean, like, I could go on and on about why I love Origins so much, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at that because we got a video to make. So, Origins is my personal favorite zombies map of all time, and it's at the top of best of the best. Coming up next, starting our Black Ops 3 run, we have Shadows of Evil, and it's also going to make a trip into the best of the best. Shadows of Evil and Mob of the Dead are really close to each other. Honestly, I think I rank them, like, right next to each other because they're kind of similar. But I think Shadows of Evil is just above Mob of the Dead. So, Shadows of Evil is, again, you want to talk about another map that's really defined by its soundtrack. Shadows of Evil, 100%, 1,000,000%, as a matter of fact. One of the things that I think Shadows of Evil does better than Mob of the Dead is the Beast Mode system. I think it definitely flows a lot better. It works a lot better than the Afterlife system. The Afterlife system is still good, but it was kind of iffy a bit every now and then. But Shadows of Evil kind of they kind of fixed that with the Beast Mode system. It acts like the Afterlife system. It's your source of power, and it just works a lot better. So that's definitely one thing that Shadows of Evil has over Mob of the Dead. The location of this map is awesome. Again, I talked about in Shino Numa how a lot of maps use the simple layout of there's a hub in the middle and then 4 different sections, to the corners. Shadows of Evil does the same thing. You've got a central area, and then you've got like 3 districts, and then you've got your spawn area, and then you have an underground section. So it basically kind of uses that formula, just kind of tunes it a bit. This is also the introduction of the Margwas, which, similar to the Panzers, are considered one of the best zombies enemies of all time, which I'm not going to disagree with you there at all. It's also the introduction of the Apothicon Servant, which is, again, one of my favorite wonder weapons of all time, so that's definitely positive. Shadows of Evil was definitely a map that took me a long time to really get into. I wasn't super addicted to zombies at this time, to the point where I was really on the hunt for every single secret, Easter egg, all that kind of stuff. I was just into zombies to shoot zombies and kill them. So it took me a while to get into Shadows of Evil because it was a bit more of a complicated experience. But once I really started to get into it and I learned about the fact that Easter eggs exist and that you can fight the Shadow Man and all that kind of stuff, that's what really started to pique my interest. I'm like, oh, wait, there's something much more here to zombies. So Shadows of Evil was the first Easter egg I think I ever completed, which is kind of crazy to think about. Shadows of Evil is the first Easter egg I ever completed. So that holds a special place in my long track memory of zombies. But yeah, Shadows of Evil, it's such an excellent map, and I think like 99% of the community agrees on that Shadows of Evil is one of the best zombies maps of all time. Some people think it is, and that's I wouldn't disagree with you there. I just got Origins over it. But Shadows of Evil, still an S tier map. Let's go ahead and move on. Alright, I see this tier list is just going to go ahead and skip the Giant. That's fine. But up next, we've got Drak. Yep, also going to go into S tier. Also going to go into S tier. And yes, I am going to put this above Shadows of Evil. Again, Drak and Origins, like, it's so funny because Mob of the Dead and Shadows of Evil are really similar to each other, whereas Origins and Drak are really similar to each other. Like, it's kind of funny how you have 2 maps here that are really identical to each other, and then 2 maps over here that are really identical to each other. Durice is basically Origins, but just a bit smaller. I think that, obviously, it uses the same formula of the 4 elemental wonder weapons with the bow and arrows, which you could make the argument and say it's better than the staffs. I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm not sure if I like it more than the staffs or what. I'm not sure at all, as a matter of fact. But they're still really solid. I love the 4 elemental bows for sure. I love the process to get them. They're all really different. Some of them are a bit more difficult than others. But there's really not a bad one in my opinion. Even the wolf bow is not that bad. I know a lot of people think it is, but it's really not that bad in my opinion. The Easter egg is probably the best Easter egg we've ever gotten in Call of Duty Zombies, which, by the way, that's something I forgot to mention with Shadows of Evil. The Easter egg is good. The one thing that kind of prohibits it from being the best zombies map of all time is the final step of the Easter egg, where it requires 4 players and you have to destroy the gate worm and fire the laser at the big creature in the sky. That entire step is not my favorite at all, and that's definitely the one flaw that Shadows has that kind of prohibits it from being the best zombies map of all time. If they fixed that, or if they got rid of that, honestly, Shadows of Evil could make an argument for being up there as the best, or even just at least being above Drak. But it's not. Drak has probably the best Easter egg of any zombies map. You could argue with me there, but I think that the flow of it, the pacing of it, all of the steps, like, there's not a single bad step in my opinion of it. I think that if you were to say there was a bad step of it, it'd probably be getting the wisps a bunch of times, which I guess you could say it feels repetitive in that sense, but it's You only have to do it twice, so it's really not that bad. So Rise and Drag, in my opinion, has such a good Easter egg. The boss fight is fantastic. The ending where you blow up the moon, again, another iconic moment in Call of Duty Zombies. It's so good, and the end cutscene, it's so good. So yeah, Rise and Drag, 100% an S tier map. My number 2 map of all time, obviously Origins number 1, Rise and Drag 2, Shadows of Evil 3, Mob Dead 4 as of right now. Yeah, Rise and Drag totally deserves S tier, and let's go ahead and move on. Next up, we have Zetsubo no Shima. Oh man, how my opinion of this map has changed so much. I'm going to put it at the top of good. I'm going to put it above Kino. Zetsubo is a map that I never played because it felt very neutral to a lot of people. No one really talked about it. So I didn't really think it was worth playing. You know, if people were talking about it a lot and saying, oh my god, this is such a good map, then I would have played it a lot sooner, but no one was talking about it, so Zetsubo was always a map that I always assumed people didn't like as much. But then eventually, it took me some time to really get into it, but eventually I learned how to do everything, and I play the map so much more now, and yeah, Zetsubo is a good map, you know. I even think I'm going to put it above Kino just because Zetsubo has a lot more to offer. There's definitely some things that I don't like I don't like the spiders, the thrashers. I don't like the artillery step of the Easter egg where you have to try and, you know, get the artillery from watering a plant, shooting it with the Wonder Weapon. Speaking of the Wonder Weapon, I think the Wonder Weapon's pretty solid, specifically the upgraded version. One of the issues that I actually had the last time I did the Zetsubo Easter egg was I ended up dying in the middle of it, and I had the KT-4 as my third weapon, and I lost it, and you can't do the boss fight without it. That's, I guess, one thing that I'm kind of iffy on, too. Like, one weapon, one thing is completely reliant for the entire boss fight, which is an interesting choice, but again, if you run into a situation like I did where you end up losing that weapon, you just can't do the Easter egg at all. You can't finish it. I, you know, kind of got lucky and had a plant implant. What am I saying today? I did the thing basically where you can clone yourself and you can revive yourself, and that's exactly what I did, and it gave me the KT-4 back. Just the KT-4, not the upgraded KT-4, the KT-4. So I still couldn't complete the Easter egg. So when you have a situation like that where one thing is completely reliant throughout, basically, what feels like the entire Easter egg, honestly, but definitely in the boss fight, it can cause some issues for sure. But still, besides that, I did a high round on Zetsubo. It was such a fun high round experience. The specialist weapon, by the way, the Skull of Non-Sapway, is so good. I love that so much. There are a couple cool, new weapons that show up on the map, specifically the marshals are so good. Yeah, Zetsubo is definitely a map that is criminally underrated in my opinion. I think a lot more people have started to appreciate it a lot more, but yeah, Zetsubo is definitely a good map in my opinion. Moving on, we have Gorod Krovi. This is another map where my opinion has changed for sure. I'll be honest with you guys, Gorod was kind of overrated in my opinion, and I would still put it here in like the good category somewhere, but it was overrated in my opinion. But I've played it some more, so I'm gonna go ahead and say it's in the amazing category. Gorod Krovi is definitely, look, it's 100% an amazing map. I want to talk about the things that I didn't like. First of all, let me say this, I think Gorod is probably my least favorite high round experience on all of the Black Ops 3 maps. I think that even the Giant and Zetsubo are better. I think maybe the Giant is my second least favorite, but I think Gorod is definitely my least favorite. I don't have as much fun doing the high round experience. It's still pretty good, but just not as good in my opinion. So I think it's my least favorite there. I think that the Easter egg, I used to have a problem with the challenges, but I don't have as much of a problem with them anymore. And it's not because I thought they were difficult or anything like that. I was totally fine with that. The thing was, I always thought the challenges should not exist. I always thought it was such a fetch quest because it kind of felt like an Alpha Omega Rushmore situation to me where you're basically doing all this stuff just to gain the trust of Sophia. That's what I thought it was, but that's actually not true at all. I thought that's what it was, but that's not true. So the challenges have definitely grown on me. The challenges themselves I like, but the idea of them existing has definitely grown on me. The one thing I don't like about the Easter egg is the step where you have to find the valve and get that, because you have to go around the map and basically change the numbers, but more specifically, you have to look it up on a website. And I never like using that excuse, like, oh, I have to look up a guide to look at stuff because it's super complicated. Like, I never like doing that excuse, because first of all, a lot of the things that I have to look up guides for, I can just like eventually just learn myself. But for this, you actually have to go on that website every single time and put in the information, which is definitely not a good thing in my opinion. I don't like that. I definitely think I wish it was something that you could just learn over time. It probably could be, but there are just so many different patterns that I just don't think so. Like, you'd have to play this map a lot in order to learn that. But yeah, you basically have to go on that website every single time, which is definitely not a good thing in my opinion. So that's definitely one thing I don't like. But then you have the boss fight, which is just incredible. You have the ending, which is really solid. You have the Ray Gun Mark III, which is a good version. It's probably my second favorite ray gun variant. It's not as good as the Mark II in my opinion, but it's definitely still good. It drops down, or drops off after kind of a high round. But still, it's definitely a fun weapon to use. The Manglers are pretty solid zombie enemies. The Valkyrie drones, yep, they're there. I mean, they're not terrible, but they're not fantastic either. But again, it's like the positives of this map are really positive. Like the boss fight and the ending, I think, really make up for it. A lot of the few things that I'm kind of iffy on. So Gorod Krovi is still an amazing map, and that's all I have to say about that. Moving on, we've got the final map of Black Ops 3, Revelations. And I'm going to put this also in the good category. I'm going to put it right there above Zetsubo. Yeah, I'm going to put it above Zetsubo. So, Revelations is a map that is definitely a lot of fun to play. I'm not going to lie, I've done the Easter egg a few more times, and the more I've done it, the more the Easter eggs actually drop down on my list. Specifically, the first half of the Easter egg, really RNG heavy. Also, it's just really messy. It's a really messy Easter egg, specifically in the first half. You go from shooting gravestones to finding a rock behind a jump pad, getting a keeper, doing its ritual, to throwing little RNGs in holes. Nice. To getting an upgraded Apothecon Servant and finding bones around the map. It's such a weird sequence of events, and it's just really messy. With that, though, it is still a fun Easter egg, but there's definitely still some problems with it. Also, the summoning key glitch that happens, like, the step before the boss fight is so frustrating, because if you can't get the summoning key back, your game is over. Like, it's just over. It's another one of those situations where you're reliant on one thing, and if you lose it, it's gone. It's completely gone. And that one glitch has made me want to break my controller so much. So much. There are a few things on Revelations that are just so flawed in the Easter egg that it's definitely gone down my list, but it's still fun to do. It definitely is. As far as the high round experience is concerned, it's a lot of fun, for sure. I loved doing a high round on this map. Obviously, you are so overpowered. You're given so much stuff. Apothecon Servant, Thunder Gun, little Arnie's, so many awesome weapons, Ragnaroks, like all of that kind of stuff. You're given so many things to help you. And the high round experience, it's just so much fun. Revelations, the best word to describe it is fun. It's just a fun map and a fun experience. So Revelations, I think that's a pretty solid spot right there. And now we begin Black Ops 4. So starting off with Blood of the Dead. Definitely gets a bit more of a bad rep than it deserves. However, it is still a pretty mid map. I think that, again, this map, it gets a bit more hate than it deserves, because it's one of those situations where it's got a few positives, but those positives are really big positives, like the story, the cinematic feel to the map. There are a couple of steps in the Easter egg that are really solid. Like the point from the Warden cutscene to the very end is spectacular, in my opinion. But there are a couple things before that that are really good. Like, I love the Michigan Avenue portal, where you have to escort the ghost from the cafeteria to the portal there, because it's just so cool seeing, like, all the inmates in the cells, like, cheering you on. It's such a cool feeling. I love it so much. But then again, it's also met with some pretty awful steps. Like I don't like the Simon Says step. I don't like the one where you have to basically shield blast that ghost a bunch of times, or like drain the essence of it a bunch. The main thing that I don't like is how reliant this Easter egg is on your shield. Again, one of those situations where the entire Easter egg is completely reliant on one thing, which is the shield. And if you lose your shield in the boss fight, you can't do it. Like, it's just, it sucks. Like, it really does. It's one of those situations where the Easter egg, they just needed to remove that one element. It could have been so much better, but you know, it is what it is. The high round experience, I haven't done a high round on Blood of the Dead in such a long time, but it's definitely not the best for sure. I think that the introduction of the magma gat is really cool. I find it better than the acid gat, in my opinion. I really like that, but yeah, overall, it's got its gameplay issues. It's just kind of a mediocre experience, but it's saved from being in the worst category in F tier because of its amazing story and the entire like back third of the Easter egg. I think that's 100% the best part, and honestly, one of the best moments we've ever gotten in Call of Duty Zombies. Now I'm starting to debate if I want to put it here in quality, but I'm going to keep it here in mid because it's got a lot of problems for sure. So Blood of the Dead, it's gonna just chill there at the top of mid. Very borderline to quality though, but top of mid. Next up we have Classified, which is, in my opinion, a map that does not need to exist at all. Like, it really doesn't. Classified is probably one of the most forgettable zombies maps, in my opinion. I completely forget that it exists. I do not play this map a lot at all. The last time I played Classified was when I was trying to get the Dark Ops challenge, where you have to spend 20 rounds without getting hit because of the elevator strategy. That's literally the last time I played Classified. That was several years ago. Like, that was back when COVID was in its prime and the world was shut down. So that was like back in 2020. And that's the last time I played Classified, because there's literally no other reason for me to play this map. Now, I'm going to soon because I have to do a high round on this map, but Classified, yeah, it's so forgettable in my opinion. It basically, you know, objectively speaking, you could say it's better than 5, but in my opinion, no, it's not. It's not as memorable as 5. 5 has so many unique things about it that make it memorable, but Classified just kind of strips that away, and it's just not memorable for me at all. It's like, I've never had a time where I've gone on Black Ops 4 and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna boot up Classified and I'm gonna have fun on that map. No, not at all. I never do that. So yeah, Classified is just, it's just there. It's just kind of at the bottom of mid, so yeah, there you go. Next up, we have Voyage of Despair. And I'm going to make a very bold move here. And I'm going to put it above Noct and Verrucht. And let me explain this. So, Voyage is a map that, again, like Blood of the Dead, it gets a really bad rep. And sure, it's got its issues, 100%. I'd say that the biggest issue I have with the map is, first of all, the RNG of the Easter egg, having to get the Kraken, well, actually, the Kraken is really the only thing you need, but it still feels like you need the Homunculus and the Hellion Salvo. Like, that's just your given setup, it feels like. You obviously don't need it, but it's like it's literally the best setup to have. So, Voyage of Despair, the RNG of that sucks. The Easter egg is definitely underrated in my opinion. I'm not exactly sure why so many people dislike the Easter egg besides the RNG, because, like, the clock step is not that bad. It's probably my least favorite step, though. That and the step where you have to shoot the pipes with the poison Kraken. But you have the catalyst lockdowns, which the worst part of that is having to just wait for the catalyst to actually show up. But the lockdowns themselves are really fun. It's a very action-packed Easter egg. Like, after the step where you have to shoot the pipes, you have the planet step, which is not as bad as people say it is. I don't know why people say it's really bad, because it's really not that bad in my opinion. And then right after that, you have the iceberg step, where it's basically a race to the finish line. And then right after that's the boss fight, which is probably one of the best boss fights we've ever gotten. Like, Voyage definitely gets a much more bad rep than it deserves. And I actually did a high round on this map very recently. It was so much fun. It was a very fun high round experience. But I'd say another problem that it has are the boss zombies, for sure. The Stoker and the Blightfathers and all the Catalysts and all that stuff. Definitely a Black Ops 4 issue looming large, especially here on Voyage. But then you have a map with so much good detail and like it's just like it's so underrated in my opinion. And like, you know, you can feel however you want to feel about the map. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's totally like, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, like Voyage is definitely an underrated map in my opinion. I definitely don't agree that it deserves all of the hate that it deserves or that it's getting. But yeah, Voyage, it's still a quality map in my opinion. It's just average. Like it's got flaws for sure, gameplay issues, all that stuff. Like it's just a quality map. So yeah, Voyage, there you go. Next up we have IX, and I'm going to put this, if it'll load with me, there we go. I'm going to put this probably just above Go Rod. So IX is an amazing map for sure. I'd say that the biggest issue I have with this map is a couple things actually. One, the amount of boss zombies that are on the map. It's not the biggest issue to me, but it is an issue. And the step where you have to shoot the stupid symbol with the death of Orion. It's so frustrating having to do that. So IX, besides a couple of those issues, is still an amazing map. Like the map layout is fantastic, very Shadows of Evil-esque, where you have a hub in the middle, 4 different sections, and an underground section underneath. Definitely giving me that vibe. The fact that it takes place in a Roman Colosseum is awesome enough. The soundtrack on the map is excellent. The high round experience on this map was fun. I literally just did it, so it's fresh in my brain. It was a lot of fun. The Death of Orion is an okay wonder weapon. It's not great, but it's not terrible. It's an okay wonder weapon. Yeah, overall, IX is definitely a solid experience in my opinion. It's definitely the map that people played the most at launch. It's definitely a good map. The Easter egg was solid too. Like there are definitely a lot of things that I like about the Easter egg. The boss fight's awesome. The ending is so crazy. You have the Raw step, which is really good. The Danu step. Oh, okay. Actually, another issue that I have. Why do we have to wait so many rounds to actually start the Easter egg? There are so many things that you have to get at the start of the game, but you can't even start the Easter egg until like round 17. Or a little higher than that, because you have to wait, like, you have to put this part down, and you have to wait a couple rounds for it to be ready, and then you have to pick it up, put it somewhere else, wait a couple rounds for it to be ready. Like, it's just a waste of time, honestly. So that's one problem that I have. So besides that part of things, I do like the Danu step, the part where you're shooting the spores. And then the Raw step is really good. The Zeus step is good. Besides the part where you have to shoot the symbols, the Odin step is good, where you're in the place where the shield is and you're fending off against the zombies. That's good. And then, like I said, the boss fight is awesome. So IX is definitely a really good map. Not as well rounded as these experiences right here, but it's definitely up there for sure. So IX in the amazing tier. Next up, we have Dead of the Night. Guys, like, oh my god, like, Dead of the Night is the most shocking map to me. This is a map that, like, a few years ago, I probably would have put, like, somewhere in here. Like maybe right there or something. Actually, no, I probably would have put it above Blood of the Dead. Like, right there. I would have put it right there. Or at the bottom of quality. Nowadays, I'm putting it in amazing. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Like, Dead of the Night is one of those maps that I completely overlooked because, again, similar to Zetsubo, no one was talking about it. It was so neutral. No one talked about it. So, eventually I decided to give it a try, and once I learned how to do everything, I learned how to get the Wonder Weapon, learned how to do the Easter egg, I actually have completed everything. Like, oh my god, it's so much fun. It's so good. Like, a lot of people's biggest complaints are the fact that it's really, I don't want to say, they say it's really complicated, but they say there's a bunch of stuff that they have to do in order to actually start the map. Like, they have to get a bunch of parts, all that kind of stuff. Like, do you though? Do you? It's really simple stuff. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have something like as bare bones as Nocturne and Toten, where you're doing nothing, basically? Would you rather have Nocturne and Toten where you're doing nothing, or would you rather have Dead of the Night where you're doing something? I would definitely vote something like this. Like, Dead of the Night, sure, it's I guess it's got a bunch of part spawns, but it's really not that easy to figure out. Like, okay, you have to get the 3 tuning forks, you have to get the parts for the silver bullets, you have to get the shield. that's basically it, is it not? Like, the setup process, that's basically it. And then, like, mostly everything else is, like, your choice. Like, it's your choice to upgrade to the Alistair's Annihilator, which obviously most of the time you're going to do that. So you do have parts to get for that. But that's just, like, your average, like, upgrading your Wonder Weapon quest line. Like, there's literally nothing unique about it whatsoever. So there's really, I don't think, I honestly think the idea of complaining about the fact that there are too many parts is basically the same as complaining that you need a guide for everything. It's kind of a cheap criticism, in my opinion. I don't agree with it whatsoever. Besides, Dead of the Night, it's not even that bad. It's not even that hard to figure out at all. I think a lot of the people that complain about that have not played the map more than like 3 times, honestly. Like, you definitely need to play this map a few times in order to figure it out, but that's every map, is it not? Dead of the Night, it's not hard to figure out whatsoever. I don't know why a lot of these people say it is. I'd say the biggest issues that I have with the map are the Nosferatus and the scratch mark step of the Easter egg, but that's honestly it, to be quite honest. Those are the main critiques that I have with Dead of the Night. The Alistair's Annihilator is an awesome wonder weapon, in my opinion. The location is awesome. The vibe of it feels like a Halloween horror film, like a special film. That's kind of what Dead of the Night feels like. You have the werewolves, which are a very solid special enemy. Not amazing, but pretty solid. Yeah, Dead of the Night is just, it's a fun experience. The Easter egg is nothing that over the top. The boss fight is pretty good. Like, yeah, it's a solid map. I'd say that the characters also bring it down. I'm not a fan of the characters, but yeah, like Dead of the Night, it's such a good map, in my opinion. I love this one a lot. Next up, we have Ancient Evil, and we're going to make another journey up here. So yes, I'm going to consider Ancient Evil S tier. So, like, bottom S tier, though. So, Ancient Evil, there's always this debate going on. What is better, IX or Ancient Evil? I 100% think it's Ancient Evil. I think a lot of people think IX is a much more well-rounded experience, and I guess, like, to a degree, I could agree. But Ancient Evil offers so much more than IX, in my opinion. I think that the Easter egg is much better than IX. Literally, the only problem that I have with the Easter egg is the Scepter and Sundial step, but everything else is really good, in my opinion. It's really easy, it's fun, and the boss fight is pretty good, and the ending is pretty good. It's the map that actually made us pretty invested in the Chaos storyline. You have, again, the formula with 4 elemental wonder weapons. You have the 4 gauntlets, which are really fun to use and really fun to get as well. They have the ammo problem, but it's totally okay. The map is so beautiful. It's so good. And then you have Pegasus, you have Perseus, you have the Oracle or Medusa, whatever you want to say. But, like, the map is so beautiful. It's so good. I love it so much. The sound design, the music on the map is also really good. Like, it's just, yeah, Ancient Evil, in my opinion, is S tier. So, yeah, I think I'm going to put it here amongst the greats. So, yeah, Ancient Evil, S tier, and better than IX, in my opinion. Next up, we have Alpha Omega. This is definitely an underrated map, in my opinion. Is it that underrated, though? I don't think so. I'm going to still put it here in the quality. I'm going to put it above Voyage. But Alpha Omega, to me, is definitely underrated, but it's still got a decent amount of problems. So the first thing I want to talk about, probably my biggest issue with the map, is the boss zombies, the jolting jacks, the gas bombers, the empowered zombies, like all that stuff. It's so bad. It's so bad. The lightning hounds, I mean, they exist. They're hellhounds that have lightning shooting around them. They look cool, but that's basically it. The Easter egg, I mean, the majority of it, honestly, is, again, like I said, like gaining the trust of an AI creature. It's got some cool story stuff every now and then, like the Peter McCain stuff is cool. And then, obviously, the boss fight's pretty solid. The ending is pretty solid. But a lot of this stuff is just kind of pointless, in my opinion. Like, again, like I said, the entire Easter egg is just gaining the trust of an AI creature. It feels like a fetch quest, honestly. And I don't like that about the Easter egg. So, some of the steps may be fun to do, but overall, like, the Easter egg is definitely nothing that incredible, nothing that special. As far as high rounds are concerned, it's definitely fun. It's definitely a fun high round experience. The 4 elemental ray gun Mark IIs are not the most unique thing ever, but they're still really cool. They're fun to get and they're fun to use. Do they need to exist? No, but I'm happy they do. I think it's really cool. And the overall vibe of this map, this is 100%. Like, sure, Alpha Omega is one tier above Nuketown Zombies, but this is such a big increase. Like, such a big upgrade from Nuketown Zombies. Such a big improvement. It's obviously expanded. There's so much more stuff to do. Whether or not you agree that stuff is good or not, there's still so much more stuff to do, which I always prefer. Yeah, Alpha Omega it's fun. It's fun, but it's got its issues. So Alpha Omega is at the top of quality, in my opinion. Next up, we have Tog der Toten. This map is interesting. So, Tog is a map that I really want to give it some leeway, but honestly, I think that the more I think about it, the more I kinda don't like it as much. I'm gonna put Tog der Toten here, I think, in quality. So, there are a few things about Tog that I don't like. I think the most glaring problem for me is the fact that Tog, its Easter egg is super repetitive. That's its biggest problem, the Easter egg's biggest problem. It's super repetitive, especially in the first half. Basically, the entire first half of the Easter egg is just you doing challenges and then like having to find the Apothecary blood the entire time and then listen to dialogue. That's basically the entire first half of the Easter egg. The second half, however, from the entire Lighthouse lockdown to the ending is really good, though. Like, really action-packed, really solid stuff. I really like that a lot. And the ending obviously helps. So, Tog der Toten's Easter egg, very mediocre in the first half, very good in the second half. As far as the gameplay is concerned, not my favorite. I think that there are a couple things that hold it back. The first thing, the wonder weapons. Why? Like, you've got the Thunder Gun, that's fine. You make a Tundra Gun, why? You give a Wonder Waff a Sniper Scope, why? Like, this just, you're basically making wonder weapons worse. Like, what is the point? You know, what is the point in this? Like, and then you have fire zombies and electric zombies, which, you know, sure, they exist. They're not anything that special, but they just kind of exist. To me, it's kind of like Classified, where Classified kind of stripped away a lot of the unique elements that made 5. And Tog der Toten kind of stripped away some of the uniqueness that made Call of the Dead. Now, obviously, I know that you have to, because this is, you know, a much different experience than Call of the Dead, but you also have the Victus crew, which is an interesting choice to have them be on the final Ether map. But, I mean, this map is definitely fun, and, obviously, again, like I said, I think the last, like, third of the Easter egg is really solid, and I think that helps for sure. But overall, like, Tog der Toten, I just messed up my list. No! Alright, we're good. Everything's fixed. Nothing happened. You saw nothing. Tog der Toten, in my opinion, is... It's just fun, but it's just a quality map, in my opinion. So that's going to conclude Black Ops 4, and now we're moving on to the final game, which is Cold War. Starting us off with Die Maschine. This, in my opinion, is, like, the perfect example of a good launch map. This is a really good launch map. Now, I think I'm going to put it... right here in between Shinonuma and Moon. I think that Die Maschine does enough to kind of give it a bit more credit than Shinonuma. But Die Maschine, at the end of the day, it's still a launch map that doesn't offer too much. And I think that there are a lot of really good things about it. I think that this is a very fun map. It's a fun high-round experience. The Easter egg is what it is, but it is a fun high-round experience for sure. The Wonder Weapon is cool. The different elements of it are cool, especially the electric one is awesome. I think that the vibe that you get from this map is really cool. Honestly, there's really not too much to talk about with Die Maschine, but I think that that's just the best way to put it. It's a fun map. It's a great launch map. It's a good way to get into Cold War, into the style of it and everything like that. Yeah, Die Maschine, especially at launch, was so good in my opinion. It was really good. So, Die Maschine, I think I'm going to put in the good category. Firebase Z is a map that I used to think was better than Die Maschine. That opinion has definitely changed a lot more. I'm going to actually put this... I'm going to put it right here, in between Tog and Voyage. Firebase Z has got some issues for me. I think that the biggest issue for me are the assault rounds. I think that early on the assault rounds are cool, but once the Orda shows up and you have to deal with him every assault round, it's super frustrating, and like it just sucks. Like, it really does. The boss zombies are nothing that spectacular. You have the Mimic, which is basically like, yeah, they're not a great boss zombie at all. You have Hellhounds, which I actually like what they did with Hellhounds on this version. Basically making them explode as they get near you. I think that makes them much more of a presence, in my opinion. The Manglers, they're back. Cool, I guess. But yeah, they exist. The Wonder Weapon, I think, is really solid. If there's one thing that Cold War does really well, it's making some really awesome wonder weapons. They even made the ray gun really cool for a long time until they had to nerf it. But Firebase C has got the Ray K, and I think that's a really solid wonder weapon. I love using it. It's very satisfying. It's overall a good wonder weapon. The Easter egg, it's got some issues like the Mimic Trap Step, and the boss fight isn't that spectacular. But overall, it's fun. But that's about all it's going for it. Yeah, Firebase C, it's a quality map. I'm going to put it in between Voyage and Tog. I think that's pretty reasonable right there. I don't know why Outbreak is after Mallard or Toten, but I'm just going to go ahead and do Outbreak. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm not the biggest Outbreak fan really at all. I'm going to put it in between Blood and Shangri-La. Outbreak, like, I think that Treyarch should definitely keep doing open world zombies. They definitely should, like, keep giving it a try and keep, like, making it better. But overall, the idea of open world zombies was cool, but it's just, like, when I started playing it, it was just not that, it was nothing spectacular to me. Like, Outbreak didn't have that much really to satisfy me. I much prefer the fast-paced, round-based experience rather than the slow-paced open world experience. It's just not zombies to me. It doesn't work. It doesn't work well, in my opinion. At least Outbreak didn't at launch. Now, when the first Easter egg came out, I think the first Easter egg is really good, besides the first half when you have to do the radio and search for the monkeys. But when you go into the missile silo and then the boss fight is really good. So it has that, I guess. The second Easter egg, what second Easter egg? There's no second Easter egg that exists. The first Easter egg was solid. I really wish they made a second Easter egg, honestly. Like, you know, I think it would have made the game so much better if a second Easter egg really existed, but, you know, it's a shame that they didn't do it. So, yeah, there's that, I guess. But overall, Outbreak, like, it's just as simple as there's not enough for me. Like, it just doesn't have anything for me that's satisfying. Like, Outbreak to me is really boring. It's slow paced, and I typically don't spend more than like 5 waves on it because it's just kind of boring to me. So Outbreak, in my opinion, is mediocre, and yeah, so there you go. Next up, we have Mallard or Toten, which in my opinion is going to make a trip all the way up here. I'm gonna listen, Mallard or Toten, like, the more I play the map, the more I like it. So, Mallard or Toten, again, like, this is the definition of such a fun zombies map. There are so many things that make this map so much fun. And I'd say that the biggest thing that makes it fun is the Wonder Weapon. The Wonder Weapon is probably one of the best Wonder Weapons we've ever had. The Cerberus, it's one of the best that we've had in a long time. It's so satisfying to use. It's so much fun. Fun fact, Mallard or Toten is actually the only Call of Duty Zombies map I've ever gotten round 100 on, because I just have so much fun on the map. Like, I don't get bored on it. It's so much fun. The gameplay is a lot of fun. The Easter egg is pretty good. Like, it's definitely the best Easter egg of Cold War, in my opinion. And the boss fight is awesome. The ending, like, Mallard or Toten definitely got us back into Cold War Zombies, got us back into the Dark Aether story, at least a little bit. But it definitely, you know, it upped our intrigue for sure. So, Mallard or Toten, like, I really don't have that much to talk about, but it's definitely the best Cold War map by a landslide. And it's just, it's so much fun. This is probably the most fun zombies map to me. I'm so excited to do a high round on this map because it's just going to be a blast. So Mallard or Toten, in my opinion, is an amazing map. I don't care what anyone says. Alright, I'm not sure why Town, Bus Depot, and Farm are all the way down here, but I'm just going to go ahead and kind of speed run this real quick. Town, I'm going to put it in the good category. I'm probably going to put it underneath, I'm going to put it right here underneath D Machine and Shino Numa. Yeah, right there. Bus Depot, I'm gonna put right here underneath Transit. There's there's no point in it, honestly. Farm, I'm probably going to do the same thing, as a matter of fact. Probably a bit better than Bus Depot, but not by a lot. So, yeah, there you go. This is a quick speed run of that. Town is, like, the map that I would play the most on Black Ops 2, like, when I got started, for sure. So, Town also holds a special place in my heart. And next up, we have Forsaken, which in my opinion is a kind of an underrated map in my opinion. I definitely think I like it more than D Machine for sure. This is probably my second favorite Cold War map. I'm gonna put it right there in between Moon and D Machine. Forsaken, again, has such an awesome wonder weapon. The Crystal Axe is awesome. The map layout is not that great at all. It basically just feels like 5 rooms put together. Or like different sections of the campaign map just like stitched together. That's basically what it feels like. That's the best way to describe it. The Easter egg is okay, the boss fight's good, and the ending is really good. Like, I think that to end Cold War off, Forsaken did a really good job at that, and got us really excited for what we're going to see next in Black Ops 6. I think that there's a lot of things to be excited about, whether it's Project Janus, seeing, Richtofen again, seeing what's going to happen with our crew in Black Ops 6. Like, I think there's definitely a lot of things to be excited about with this story going into Forsaken or going into Black Ops 6 that Forsaken, left off on. I think that Vanguard and Modern Warfare 3 Zombies have not really helped with the Dark Ether story at all, but I think Cold War had some up and downs with its story, but I think it ended pretty strong right there. So yeah, this is where I'm gonna put Forsaken. I think it's a pretty fun map for sure. The Easter egg is pretty good. Yeah, I think Forsaken is definitely an underrated Cold War map. Probably my second favorite, and yeah, that's basically all I've got for you. So this is my list right here. Let me know what you guys think of it. So starting, all the way up at Origins, still my favorite Zombies map of all time. To Die Rise, my least favorite map. Let me know what you guys think of this list right here. And, comment down below what you would change, what, your favorite map is, what your least favorite map is, all that kind of stuff. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, please be sure to leave a like on the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to stay notified for future videos and streams that I do on the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one.